everyone, this is Lindsay from Imaginary Rebel Art Studio, and today I'm just going to do a short video on an introduction into the angle brush. And so the angle brush actually, I think, is a pretty popular one. It's just not one I use very often, but I might start actually because it's actually a really fun brush. I've been kind of experimenting with how to do flowers and like vines and things like that, and that's really good for an angle brush. I'm also doing some Halloween and Thanksgiving kind of paintings on the side, and I've been using the angle brush to do some feathers, things like that. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and I'm sure there's just a multitude, just like every other brush. There's so many different things that you can make with it, but I'm just going to show you a couple different techniques that are just for like flowers and vines and like grass, things like that. And so there's different sizes, just like every other brush, different kinds, different brands. And really, because there's so many different kind of brands and there's so many different brushes that have numbers on them, I kind of just go by size. So like large, small, medium, things like that. So what I have right now is a larger brush. This is a larger one that I have, and then I know I have really small ones, I just can't find them right now, but basically just like any other brush, the smaller you go in size, obviously it's more for details and for smaller type of flowers or whatever you're making. So again, bigger brushes usually are for taking on more paint and for, you know, getting things done quickly and just making larger designs, whereas the small ones are, again, more detail. So I'm just gonna do, I've just got a simple kind of palette today. I'm gonna do some flowers with the red and the yellow so you can see it on my white pad. And then I have those two colors, a light green and dark green. And then I was doing some glitter earlier, but we weren't gonna do the glitter. But anyway, what I'm gonna do is kind of show you how to do kind of a two-toned flower and two-toned like leaf, I guess. And that's kind of how you can create dimension and make it look more realistic. And again, I'm really still in the beginning stages. I've been playing around with a lot of it, but it's been a lot of fun, and that's what painting is all about, is to have fun with it, you know, just kind of create your own thing and just see how it takes off. So I'm just gonna make sure that I can see. I'm trying this a little bit of a different way so I can maybe see the comments. I sometimes, most times, can't see comments when I do lives, and so I'm trying to do this a little bit differently, but I don't know, it's not loading for me. Oh well. Okay, so we're just gonna so basically on an angle brush, so it's basically like a square brush, only it has an angle. And so this part of the angle brush is called the heel, and this part is called the toe. And so when you're making like vines or grass blades or anything that's really like a sharp edge, you would use the toe part, which is this top part, and then everything else is kind of used by this heel part. And so let's see here. I think I'll be able to see your comments. Looks like my other phone is working today, so we'll see. But anyway, I'm gonna kind of start with making a vine where I'm gonna put flower petals on top. And so kind of how you have to do that is I did get this wet a little bit, but you have to have two colors on your brush at the same time. And essentially, when we get to the flower part, it's usually one part of a smaller color, and then it's two parts of the larger color. But for the vine part, it's kind of like half and half. And so I try to push them kind of together. And so basically, for the toe, I'm going to put it in this dark color. That's the toe, that's the heel. And then I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to make a color where you see both colors basically. So now you have kind of an ombre where it goes from light to dark or dark to light. And so what you have to do when you're kind of making these kinds of strokes, I guess it's called a one stroke, I guess. And when you're doing that, you have to make sure there's quite a bit of paint on your brush. Otherwise it won't give the same effect, kind of. So I'm going to move this out of the way here. And so right now I'm just going to use the toe part of the brush, which means I won't get any of that light color. I'll only be getting that dark color. And that is also if you were to, unless you're able, or unless you wanted to have a larger stroke, you could press down more. Right now I'm not really pressing too hard on my brush to get that fine tip, even though I have both paints on my brush. So yeah, I'm just kind of making little flower or stems, I guess. Stems. And you can go any direction. I'm just kind of, and I'm just using the top of that brush, and so that can kind of be used like a liner brush, or what else? There's other brushes. So basically any brush that can make a thin line, that's what I'm doing with this brush. So there's multiple things you could do with it instead of just one kind of stroke. So there's kind of the start of it. And so now I'm going to use both sides, and really what I'm going to do is I'm going to just push a little bit harder, and I'm going to turn it opposite direction, and I'm going to push down, go like that. But I didn't have enough paint on my brush, and that's why that happened. You really need to make sure you have a lot of paint on your brush to make it look like, maybe, let me see if you can see it. Right here is where I didn't have enough paint on my brush, and you can kind of see, whereas right here is a full straight line. So I'm going to do it to start again over here. I'm going to push down, the pressure is going to be more. And again, on this side, I don't have as much paint on my brush. So I'm going to do it again. Kind of like that. So what I could do is I could put a little bit more of that lighter color on my brush instead of all of that darkness. And then we could kind of see maybe a little bit more of that light, because that green is kind of a dark green. So there we go, a little bit more. You can see that two-toned color. So there. Again, those are just things that you can practice depending on how you want the look of your flowers or whatever you're painting. Again, that was where I don't have enough paint on my brush, so you really have to have a lot of paint on there to get a really good look. And then another thing that it could do is if you're wanting to do like let's say you're doing just little tiny like leaves that have broken off, or if you're just doing like leaves in general, you can go in this direction, make little leaves like that, or depending on what you're making, you can make and this is kind of just extra foliage that would be around. Again, it could be some bushes, it could be whatever kind of foliage you're trying to make. I've been kind of using this brush to make feathers because I've been doing like a holiday Thanksgiving kind of flower arrangement, and if you press down pretty hard and then let go, you kind of get that feathery look. Let me see if you can see it. You can kind of see, so how that happens is that I'm pushing down with the heel of the brush, and as I'm pulling up, the toe of the brush gets pulled through, and that kind of gives it that line of a feather. So, and you can do that with any colors. I'm just doing it with these two colors to start. But again, you have to have a lot of paint on your brush. So I'm going to rinse out my brush and go the opposite way, I guess. We're going to use the yellow and the red in a second, but I'm going to go this way now, where I'm going to get these two colors on my brush. So essentially one color is on one side and then the dark color is on the other side. And it's essentially the same thing. It's going to be like, this is a larger brush, so it's going to make a larger stroke. And so, I'm getting an echo. I'm sorry, 1 second. I don't know where it's coming from. Let's see. Okay. No more echo, yay. So anyway, I kind of made that. So it kind of blends the two colors together to make that kind of look. Let's see. I can also make pointed grass with this, and again, that's just really using the toe of the brush, the pointy end. So I'm not using that heel portion at all, I'm just using the toe. And again, if you push harder, your stroke will be thicker. If you don't press very hard, then it'll be a little bit thinner, and it'll kind of give it more of a feather, wow, can't talk. Featherier, that's a word, look. So there's some grass. So yeah, a lot of different things you could do with this kind of brush, the angle brush. Again, I've been more using it for this kind of look with a whole bunch of different colors, mostly pastel colors, and a lot of different colors of yellow, orange, red, things like that. Brown colors for fall and Thanksgiving kind of paintings I'm working on right now. So I'm going to turn this to the other side here and go upside down here with this. And we're gonna do some flour. And I guess I had stepped on this, it's on the ground. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse out this brush. And you don't want it to be like sopping wet or anything, you just want it to be damp, just to get the shape back. So the shape is the angle of the part. That's what you're looking for. So again, just like we had two colors with the dark and light green, we're gonna do the same thing with these colors. And again, I chose yellow because I did this last night with white and you couldn't really see it very much because my pad is white. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm actually gonna have the red color on the outside. So what I'm gonna do is have my heel in the yellow and the red part will be on the toe of my brush. So I'm just going to, again, you just have to get, the key is to just make sure there's a lot of on your brush. Otherwise you'll have to just keep getting your brush with paint. So again, this one's, I put them kind of maybe too far apart, trying to get them on there. You essentially want a good kind of ombre color, or you can tell the difference between one side to the other. You know, and so, you know, again, with the same kind of where I did before with those feathers, I push down, you know, again, depends on what you're making. You can make little tiny, depending again on how much pressure you're using. Like that. You can kind of do the same thing as far as the grass, again, depending on what you're making. If you flick upwards. Same kind of premise, but I was gonna try to do a flower for you guys here. I just like, because I usually use the round brush to make these similar kind of like branches, I guess. And I've been really kind of experimenting with this brush. And it's kind of neat how you can do so many different things with this brush, because it's kind of like two brushes in one. It's a flat brush, and then it's like, you know, this angle brush at the same time. And so, or like a liner brush. So it's a flat brush and a liner brush all in one in a way, because you can do liner brush stuff with this side, with the toe part, and then you can do the flat brush part with this part. It's a really good blending brush as well. So again, multitude things you could do with it. But as far as, you know, making a flower petal, you would just you kind of create a line here. And a little bit more yellow there, okay. And then you could create a line right here, just to kind of give you a guide. And those are kind of big. But essentially you would go up and around, up and around. So you can kind of make that effect. For making a smaller petal, kind of, that's kind of big. So we just do right here. And then you could do, you push down, go up like that. And then I would turn it a little bit. And then you push down and go up. And you're just, this is kind of how you would make a flower petal, or a flower. It's like a basic flower, I guess. Let me see if I can raise you up a little bit here. And it's really just kind of making a little marks of where your brush should stop. This is why we kind of make those little marks first. So again, like, oh gosh, little mark here, and then the other mark would be right there. Let's see if you can, trying to get it where you can see it better. And then you would push down, pull up, and kind of move like that. So there's kind of one way of making petals on a flower. Okay, I'm in a very small space, so I have to keep like moving it around. Okay, so that's kind of what you kind of can do with different colors. I can kind of reverse it and do the yellow on top with the red on the bottom. And again, you just have to mix that on your palette first, and then you can put it down. So I'm gonna push up like that. Let's see what else. I mean, again, there's just like trying to get a good amount on my brush here. Let's see, I could push down and do that, and I can do that, and then I could go down this way and make a little circle if I was gonna do like a rose or some kind of flower that had a circular center. And for this one, I would just kind of go press down. With this brush, you definitely have to kind of twirl the brush as you're pressing down. And that just kind of takes practice. Pretty much a lot of the other brushes, you don't have to really move the brush too much to make it do what you want it to do. But with this one, you kind of have to. So I'm pushing down, but then I'm twirling the brush under to make those kind of petals. Let's see. And then trying to get that on there. So another way of doing it is I also just do these long kind of petaled. And that's just from not pressing down. Like, this is a lot of pressure. This is like hardly any pressure. that I'm starting with my heel, but then I'm kind of ending on my toe. So anyways, let's see. Let's see what else. Anyway, there's kind of just a lot of different things you can do with, again, with this one. I'm gonna go to a smaller brush. So that was the largest one I have, which they make them a lot larger. This is just the largest one I have. And so let's see. Go to this smaller one right here. I'm gonna put just a little bit of water on it. But again, you don't want it dripping or anything like that. And let's see. Let's use maybe some pink this time. And again, the smaller brush that you go to is more for details, depending on what you're doing. I like to do kind of sometimes details on like leaves. But as far as, let's see if I want to do, I'm just kind of making it up as I go, people here. That's why I'm just not sure what I want to do yet. So let's see. Let's see here. Let me get a different color of that. Green is kind of a too dark of a green, so I'm going to get a little bit lighter of a green color. And right now I'm kind of just using craft paint to show you this, but you could use any paint really that you have. I use a lot of craft paint just to for like when I do paint parties and things like that, or to practice like this. But when I'm doing my more professional paint, I like to do obviously more professional kind of grade, but this stuff I'm just using craft paint. All right, I'm just kind of mixing, sorry, off the camera here. I might have to just stick with that dark color. I don't know, let's see. Same thing kind of when you're making certain kind of leaves. I think I just have to stick with the dark. And then you have to push and pull outwards, kind of. I didn't start that right, but guess I should just stay with the original two I had. Just because you could see a little bit better. See if I can try that again. So I'm kind of just doing like a zigzag, and then you push down. and then you push down. So that's kind of another way you can do kind of a leaf. And you're really, again, you're just playing around with it, really. I'm just slowly trying to get the center to be a little bit lighter than the outside of it. And really all I'm doing is I'm pushing down and I'm just kind of squiggle, 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 and then you turn your brush inwards and it kind of overlaps it a little bit towards the inside. Same thing with over here, you know, wiggle, 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 and then you turn in like this. So you're kind of doing a little bit of, again, two things at the same time. This is the only brush I feel like I've had to do that so far with. So anyway, there's kind of one kind of, I don't know, leaf I made up. And so that was kind of my point, is there's a lot of different things that you could do with this kind of brush, this angle brush. And, you know, the best thing I could tell you is just, you know, go to the dollar store and buy one and get like a little paper pad and just get some paint. Just practice. Practice is the best thing you could do. And just kind of make things up as you go along, and then it turns into a masterpiece. So anyway, thanks for watching with this tutorial. Again, it's just a short how-to video, introduction into brushes kind of video about how to do different ones, and this week it's about the angle brush. And so I hope everyone has a great weekend. Tomorrow I have a Facebook Live at 3 where we're doing a mystery painting. So stay tuned for that. But otherwise, hope everyone has a great night, and see you soon.